Good morning. We are the PSEG Institute for Sustainability Studies Green Team serving the City of Newark for the summer of 2020.
Good morning, everyone. I want to start by introducing the team of 2020, starting with myself, Iman Cumberbatch. I'm an information technology major at Montclair State University.
Hi, my name is Abby Holden, and I'm an environmental studies major at Bates College.
My name is Olivia Johnston, and I'm a mathematics major at Morgan State University.
My name is Vincent Adoro. I'm an environmental science major at William Patterson University, as well as a Marine Corps veteran where I served 4 years active duty.
Hi, I'm Ismael Nunez, and I'm a civil engineering major at the College of New Jersey.
To give a little background about the City of Newark, it is the most populous city in New Jersey. It has roughly a population of about 282,011 from 2019's estimate, and it's home to a majority of Latinx, immigrants, and Black people. It also is a crossroads city, which means it has a lot of commercial trade coming in and out of the city through multiple forms of transportation, such as airport, seaport, highway corridors, and even rail.
So this summer, we've been working with Newark's Office of Sustainability, specifically Natalie Agosto-Filion, who's their Chief Sustainability Officer, and Jonathan Gordon, who's their Climate Action Coordinator. A little bit of background about the office. They developed their first Sustainability Action Plan in 2013 and another one in 2018, and they're currently working on a third installment. And these plans will just lay out different steps that they can take to reduce their carbon footprint and overall just make the city cleaner, greener, healthier, more prepared for the future, and more engaged with their Newark residents.
This summer, we were able to help the City of Newark take a step towards climate mitigation by creating their very first greenhouse gas inventory. From there, the city can set goals and plans to reduce their carbon emissions, which will improve the air quality and overall quality of life for its residents. By starting with a municipal inventory, the city wanted to start by doing that to create a sense of transparency between the city and the community. Overall, this will make Newark a healthier and cleaner city for its residents.
So in order to ensure we help make Newark a better city, we had to focus on climate action by developing data sets to inform proposed actions. Second, we had to make a greenhouse gas inventory using ICLEI ClearPath software. And in order to be able to develop the greenhouse gas inventory, we had to go through a lot of data that needed vetting to ensure accuracy of available data and to find the missing data.
So for a little bit more background, ICLEI is a global network of over 1,700 local and regional governments in over 100 countries. As you can see in the top right, there is Copenhagen, Denmark, and in the bottom right, Kyoto, Japan, and in the bottom left, Los Angeles County in the USA. They're all members of ICLEI. What ICLEI does is make it easier for these governments to create and implement sustainability goals. One of the ways it does that is through their ClearPath software. It helps governments take the first step by creating a greenhouse gas inventory. It also has tools and calculators to find out emissions on the government operations level and community-wide. The software also includes planning and forecasting tools to help governments reduce their greenhouse gas emissions.
The first step in achieving our deliverables was first to organize the data, and then also to organize it in a way that was comprehensive for us and made it easier for us to draw conclusions. So what this meant was to compile a list of unique municipal account numbers. We received a number like maybe 12 spreadsheets with account numbers, consumption data, departments, addresses, different kinds of data. But we had to make it comprehensive and make it into a summarized spreadsheet. So Google Sheets and Excel helped us automate the process of linking addresses and facility types, as well as consumption. And ultimately, the data was helpful because through the addresses, we were able to create a map and a dashboard, and we were also able to create a greenhouse gas inventory with the consumption data.
So once we were able to organize the data, we were able to find any missing data areas. What we found was that in 2019, 21% of electric consumption was not linked to a specific department or sector of city operations, which is especially important when putting the consumption data into ClearPath. Also in 2019, 15% of gas consumption was not linked to a sector of city operations.
So once we had all of our data organized and compiled, we were able to begin inputting it into the ClearPath software. And the images on the screen show what this looks like. So on the left, you can see there are different tabs on the top for the different sectors within the city. And there are calculators associated with each one. As you can see, there's grid electricity, stationary fuel combustion from natural gas, and others. And on the right is a picture of what these calculators look like. So this one, for instance, is public buildings electric consumption. And you can see there are places where you can input different data. And so we input the total electricity used for each year, and then ClearPath would output the greenhouse gas emissions from that consumption use.
Using the address link, we were able to create a map and dashboard, as mentioned earlier, using ArcGIS Pro, which is a software used for mapping, and also ArcGIS Online that we use for the dashboard. So in order for these maps to be shown, we went through a data process using geocoding. So the geocoding tool in ArcGIS Pro allows you just to identify any address and pair it to a specific coordinate on the map. So since a lot of the addresses given weren't correct when it came to the spelling or the abbreviations, one thing we've been doing is just manually rematching the addresses. So the rematching process overall, when geocoding, allowed the system to track the system accurately and for the best results.
Before we moved on to create the greenhouse gas inventory, we first had to make a few assumptions and address some of the missing data. So as you can see in the tables below, a lot of the account numbers didn't have a department or a facility type attached to them. You'll see in 2019 for electric and gas consumption, 21% of the account numbers did not have a facility type attached to them. And then for gas, it was 15%. So what we did was we looked at a table like the one you're seeing on the screen, and we looked at public buildings, and we noticed that there's a steep drop off between 2018 and 2019% of the total that it shared. You'll see that for electric, it went from 42% to 16%. And then for gas, it went from 95 to 80%. So just based on these numbers, we thought it would be most appropriate to attribute the missing account numbers towards public buildings. And then once we made that assumption, we finally had the final consumption data that we were able to use for the greenhouse gas inventory.
So getting into a bit of our results, these two tables show the annual consumption for each facility type from 2017 to 2019. The table on the top is electric consumption, and the one on the bottom is gas consumption. And something you might notice if you look at these sum totals, there's a spike in consumption in 2018 for both electric and gas, and then a subsequent reduction. We believe this is just due to different weather patterns but through the years, and increased uses of air conditioning or heating systems throughout the city that would increase consumption use. And something surprising that we noticed is that streetlights and traffic signals, specifically unmetered, which just means that they don't know exactly how much consumption they're using, it's just an estimate. We noticed that the streetlights and traffic signals had the most electric consumption for all 3 years. And this is something that we were not expecting to find and was very interesting.
So here we have a graph by annual CO2e or CO2 equivalent by facility type. So what CO2e means is this the number of metric tons of CO2 emissions with the same global warming potential as a 1 metric ton of another greenhouse gas. So here in 2017 to 2018, we could see a increase by 6.7% of emissions of CO2e. And from 2018 to 2019, we see a drop off of 14% of CO2 emissions. Each year, each sector was pretty consistent throughout the years.
Here is a dashboard just to show the departments and facilities that contribute to greenhouse gas emissions throughout mainly of Newark. So the city will be able to click on any location on the map, and it'll just give them pop-up information about how much that specific location has consumed annually, and its addresses and what department it's in. This is all in hopes to provide them with the most effective way to reduce the city's greenhouse gas emissions with clear visuals and hold departments accountable.
Our emissions data allowed us to create a forecast for different scenarios that Newark can take to reduce their emissions. So the black dotted line on the graph just shows the 2019 emissions and where they were. And the red line shows a business as usual scenario. And this just means that Newark would not implement any reduction strategies and would just continue to emit as they are now. And you can see that by 2050, there would be an increase in emissions if they did that. And then we wanted to look at two different strategies that they can use to reduce. So the blue line shows an 80% reduction of 2006 emission levels by the year 2050. And this is New Jersey's statewide commitment to adhere to the Paris Agreement. And then we also wanted to include a bit of a more ambitious scenario in which the city is actually able to become net zero by 2050. And this is represented by the green line in the graph.
To make it easier for future data collection, we also created a few templates. As you can see on the left, there's an employee commute survey to account for more indirect causes for greenhouse gas emissions from city operations. On the right, we have a template for gas and electric consumption. It's organized by account number, and then we also have the facility type, and we did it by monthly so that it's easier to track and create a greenhouse gas inventory in the future.
One of the areas that we thought had the most potential for improvement when it comes to efficiency is traffic signals. So currently, the City of Newark, we analyzed and we concluded that the City of Newark emits about 1,500 metric tons of CO2 just from the traffic signals. And one of the reasons why is because they still have about 46% of their traffic signals using incandescent traffic signal bulbs, which is the conventional way. However, many cities have been switching to LEDs because they are about 10 times more efficient than incandescent signal bulbs. So we wanted to look at what improvements we can get from switching over from incandescent to LEDs. Our analysis shows that they have about 4,800 traffic signals. If they were to convert entirely to LEDs, they can see an improvement of about 77% in emissions reductions. And right now, 88% of their emissions come from incandescent bulbs, even though they only make up 46% of the traffic signals they have.
So some recommendations we have for the city of Newark, like Ismail had just said, was the implementation of LED traffic lights to cut down their emissions. Also, the electrification of their vehicle fleet, which Newark already has a plan for. Turning their electrical fleet, into electric vehicles, or at least more sustainable or greener fuels, will definitely cut down on their CO2 emissions. Anything away from compressed gas to biodiesel, anything like that. And also more efficient building systems. So sustainable buildings, greener buildings. Also using their electricity in a more efficient way from solar panels, or just using systems of heating and cooling that are just way, way more efficient on the energy usage.
Finally, we'd like to thank and acknowledge the people that have been providing support to us this summer.
And finally, we'd like to thank our funders.